Okay, beauties. So warmly welcome to today's live stream. I'm moving from numbness into oneness and from trauma into healing and into openness. So before we go any further, I want to check with those of you who are here, and I can see more and more dropping in every second. Checking so that you can hear me and that you can see me. So anybody who is first, if you can just type into the chat box that you can hear me and that you can see me and that we are good to go, basically. Loud and clear. Thank you. Beautiful. Beautiful. Great. And so for those of you who are here now, great. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. For those of you who are here now, just know that the full thing will be recorded. So if at any point you have to drop out and go somewhere else, then you can come back and watch later. What I find with these live streams is that the biggest experience really comes when you are actually there live. Thank you, Rebecca. So if you can be here for the full experience, then that's absolutely the best thing. But just know that it will be recorded. And I'm also recording the audio separately, just so that if Bali weather or thunder or lightning happens and we're cut out, then it will still be recorded perfectly. So for all of you who are here now, please let me know in the chat. In a way, it's like, you know, if we were gathered here live in a circle in the same room with everybody, then we could go around the circle and check in. What brings you here? What calls you here? Why are you here? And so I want to start by doing that now as well, to, in a way, go around the circle and check in with you. What brings you here? So what calls you to this call, you could say, or what was it in the invitation or in anything that I shared that called you to come and join here. And if you want, you can also let me know where in the world you are tuning in from. So for anyone who is experiencing any kind of delay or anything, we are working with Bali Wi-Fi. So in that sense, you know, you never know what's going to happen. But as far as your connection goes, and the more you can turn everything else off and make sure that your bandwidth is only taken up by this live stream, then the better your experience will be. And if you experience any freezing or dropping out, then try and refresh. Head back over to the link that you had, that you came in with, and then we should be good to go. So Austria, Minnesota, Holland, Germany, different places. Okay, so share where in the world you're tuning in from and also what calls you here. So what brings you to this live stream. And if you don't have, you know, a cozy place to sit or a comfortable place to sit, as well as something to drink, I have some green tea here, then you could get that now. Kim, one of the triples travels in Amsterdam, yeah. Kim and Lisa and me. Sweet, okay, so there's been a lot of questions and sharings coming in. Probably take some time a bit later on to share if there are any questions that want to be answered. So for all of you who have filled in the pre-webinar survey, I want to say thank you so much for sharing. It feels like I'm just scanning it right now as I'm talking to you. There are a lot of people who have had quite a lot of, you could say, traumatic experiences in their lives, a lot of sexual abuse, a lot of other kind of experiences, a lot of people feeling sexually closed and shut down, feeling like all hope is gone. Let's see, some people who want to attract a partner and open up more to their fullness so that they can actually attract a partner who can meet them. Some people who share that they haven't had sex for many years and they are wanting to open up again, to connect deeper to themselves and to their partner. People feeling stuck in their thinking and don't know how to go into feeling again and go into their body, which is usually what happens when the body goes into a shock response and a protection mechanism. So it's very, very normal. Some people who are sharing that they are compelled to tune in because of the power of empowerment and forgiveness. And some people just resonating because they've also had the experience of feeling like suicide is the only way out, and then either going through it into where they are experiencing healing, or that they're experiencing that they're still kind of stuck in that cycle of suicidal tendencies. One woman sharing, wanting to develop and celebrate my female goddess side more. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, and one girl saying, I'm here because I like you and the vibration you're sending out. Thank you so much. Diving deep into the wisdom of my womb for deeper healing and transformation. Some people sharing that they're just having a longing for awakening and waking up, having gone through some challenging emotional experiences, breakups, etc. recently. Not wanting to feel numb anymore, recurring depressions, wanting to heal wounds and traumas. Healing trauma, healing trauma. Oh, one girl saying, I just love your energy and being. Thank you. You inspire me to learn more. Yeah, I'm just scrolling through. It's a lot. It's a lot of responses have come in. But all in all, it feels like very clearly, yeah, one woman sharing that she's been following my journey for a while and wanting to open up for more inspiration and healing, learn and expand. Yeah, so all in all, just a lot of shared experiences of desiring healing. One woman also shares that she was called because of the feeling to hear something that she needs to hear, feel something that I need to feel, my system telling me it's the right thing to do. So this, I feel, is true for all of us in a way, not just for this webinar, but just in all of the experiences we go into, is that life will guide us to the right places, people, meetings, teachers, inspirers. That when there is a pocket of contraction in our system that is wanting to return to openness, that is wanting to return to love, then life will orchestrate exactly the right events, meetings, insights, etc., for that to actually uncontract and open. And so whatever your specific reason is for being here, then, and I don't know what that is for you specifically in terms of exactly what's going to happen or what you're going to take away from this or what it's going to open for you. But I do trust that whatever that is for you individually, you who are watching this right now, it will be the perfect whatever it is that you need to hear, whether it's my voice sharing something, or maybe an insight that comes from your higher self as you're tuning into this, or anything that somebody says in the chat box. Feel free at any point to write in the chat if you feel touched, if you feel inspired, or if you want to share something. You know, this will be a simultaneous conversation happening in the chat. I'm going to try as much as possible to stay away from looking at the chat, because I get very easily pulled in and distracted by it, apart from some times when I'm going to look over there to check for specific answers. And if you have a question that you want me to answer at some point later, then mark it as a question. So when you write in the chat, you can either mark it as a question or as just a comment. And if you mark it as a question, then I can see in the admin panel all the questions piled up, so that when I go back there later, then it's very easy to respond to that. So let me just drop into the chat for a moment. Shari says, wanting to feel my life energy streaming strongly all the time. Georgie says, curiosity about the theme, curiosity about you, curiosity about the diving deeper into it, looking into my regression phases of reaching out. Rebecca, the connection went wrong. Try and just refresh the whole thing. It should actually drop you right back into where it's happening live. Brigitte says, healing, awakening, growing, personal feminine empowerment. Angel says, ready to let go of all the old trauma. Carlin says, I don't know if that's how you say your name, Carline? Hi, Ronnie, I'm here from Iowa, USA. I'm here because I'm so in need of self-love for my genital region and feeling a lack of connection with my sex center. Yes. Kai says, don't remember any sexual abuse by others, but I have abused myself by confusing sex with love. Raise your hand, anybody who can recognize that one. Yvette says, ready for this, letting go of fear, opening for love. Yeah, so Irene didn't see the survey. It's just like on the thank you page down below. It says here you can fill in the survey, but you know, it's all good. It's just so that I can connect a bit more deeply before we actually get together. So no worries, you can just ask your questions live instead. Absolutely no problem. And Joanna says, good morning from wet and windy Ireland. Come to Bali. This is also rainy sometimes here, but it's so warm. I am tuning in because I always gain and grow so much from your webinars, Ronja. Denise says, Sweden. Denise, you were just in Bali recently, right? Curious to hear you speak about healing. Yvonne, I'm in Utrecht, the Netherlands. I'm in the phase where I'm ready to be in an abundance of love, an abundance for love. Beautiful. And Kim, one of the triple troubles, Amsterdam. Only we know what we mean by that. Interested in sexual healing. Interested in all sexual healing. Okay, great. Beautiful. And Linda says, hi, I want to go deeper into feeling more healing from a trauma I don't remember and get in contact with my sexual feminine more. Chloe says, wanting to reconnect to myself, wake up and feel sexually empowered, heal from sexual trauma. Danish shall open rather than Netherlands. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so with that, let's all take a couple of deep breaths into our bodies. So breathing in through your nose or through your mouth, down through your throat, into your heart, into your belly, and letting that go with an out breath. And breathing into your heart, breathing into your belly, breathing all the way down into your pelvic floor. Allowing your breath to press on the inside of your pelvic floor. And then letting that go. And then a couple of deep breaths where you breathe into your whole body. If you're in a space where you can do so, then you can also stretch your arms up. Taking hold of one wrist and stretching out, pulling, lengthening one side of your body. And then the other. You can pull on the wrist or simply lean over to that side. And let that go. And also let your body do a few spirals or any other movements that your body feels like doing right now. Spiraling or undulating. Maybe a little bit of a shimmy or a shaking. So the agenda for today, warmly welcome. Dropping in, sharing why you are here, what brought you into this virtual circle. That we have already done and is happening as well. For anyone now who wants to share what brings you here, Justin says, I feel blocked to express myself in making a sexual connection with a woman. So warmly welcome. We're now in this. From here, I'm going to begin to share about what my personal journey with trauma healing, with sexual healing and opening has been. And I will share with you some specific processes that have profoundly and deeply helped me in this journey, as well as let you know how you can go deeper into this, because there's just no way that I could summarize 13 years of opening and emotional healing and release in just like an hour and a bit. There's just no way to do that. But I am going to be offering a multi-part series in the Central Yogini Academy which we might even make an exception that maybe some men can join in there as well, or if you're a man and you feel called, then we can also do one-on-one sessions as possible. If you want deeper guidance into specifically how to release trauma from your system, open up for deeper intimacy and more feeling and deeper orgasmic experiences. So that's going to be available later as well. So I'll just mention that more towards the end probably, or maybe before going into some Q&A, where you can get some deeper guidance into some specific practices. I think that's it. Okay, so let's drop in. It's so funny to be sharing this, because it's like, normally if I would be sharing this with a friend or you know, somebody that I meet, then we actually can have eye connection. And so if anybody feels moved to at some point come on video and have a conversation, that would be beautiful for me as well, because then we can have actually a deeper, you know, personal in front of each other connection. So this is the first time that I really share about this virtually or impersonally with this concept. So the one thing that has affected me the most in this lifetime, the event that was the biggest catalyst for just sending me on this path of healing, of transformation, of sexual healing, of tantra, of guiding retreats and women's groups and ecstatic awakening experiences. So personally, I want to say that I have not personally experienced sexual trauma in terms of, like, this body has not been sexually abused in this lifetime. I have been through an experience that energetically and emotionally lodged immense closure into my system for many years. And so the experience that I had that became the catalyst for everything, you could say, is that when I was 12, so this was in the summer of 1998, so it's now like almost 19 years ago. It feels like a different lifetime in a way, but the summer when I had just turned 12, I was out in the countryside with my mother, and I know my mom will be tuning into the live stream as well, if not live then for the replay, so this is for her as well. I was up in the countryside with my mother. We used to have a small island together with my cousins, and so my mom and I were out there, and my 6 years older sister, so she was 18 at the time, she was home alone, and she was gonna stay over. So my parents divorced when I was like, I think maybe 4, so my dad was staying in his house, my sister was staying kind of in my mom's apartment, but home alone. She was out dancing with a friend one evening, and then at some point, so they were going to stay over with the friend, but at some point the friend, she was, as far as I understand, she was basically feeling tired, wanting to go home, and my sister wanted to keep on dancing, and so they decided to go home separately. And from there, we don't know exactly what happened or how it happened, but basically my sister went home alone and somehow either followed her home or rang the bell or whatever. This guy got into the apartment. And so what happened, and again, I don't know the details, I don't know the specific order of what happened, but the summary of what happened was that my sister was, she was raped, and she was strangled with a scarf. And they counted, afterwards they counted, I think, 167 points where the knife had gone into her body. And my dad found her the next morning when she wasn't picking up her phone or her beeper, those things you used to have in those olden days. Then he went in with the landlord, and in my bedroom they found my sister. She was still in one piece, but it was very, very brutal how it happened. I saw her afterwards as well when they had cleaned her up, and there was just like cuts everywhere. And then they went out to the island to tell me and my mother. And I remember when they came, and my dad's words, I still remember now, it's like, they came into the kitchen and brought me out into the living room, and then my dad said something along the lines of that our beloved Sarah, our beloved daughter and sister, is no longer with us. And I didn't know the details. I didn't know, I thought maybe somebody had just shot her or something. I didn't know the details of what had happened, so I didn't know the brutality of it. But in that moment of having said goodbye to her just a few days earlier, and then hearing that, you know, my biggest role model, my biggest idol, the person that in a way I love the most in the whole world, was just gone. I remember this when they told me. It was the feeling, you know, like in a movie when they do this like intensely quick zoom in, it's like implosion. It felt like the entire universe just imploded into my belly and into my body, and my throat opening, but I don't think any sound came out. It was like a silent scream from just depths of everything. And that was a scream that later on in the release work that I've been doing, I have let out many times, and to the point where, you know, it feels free and it feels open. But that was basically what happened. And so and then later I found out exactly how it happened, and through the, you know, the way they checked my sister's body afterwards, they found out that she was raped, and because they found all the traces in the sperm and everything. But anyway, yeah, so they found her in my bedroom, and so what this did for me is that it sent me into basically 5 years. The first 5 years after she died, I was living in a pretty much continuous state of shock and fear. It's not that I was never happy, but in general, the experience that I had was that I was just extremely fearful, sad, angry, closed down. I used to have panic attacks every night. Like I would go to bed at 10 or 11 in the evening, and still at 5 o'clock in the morning I would just be having like panic attacks in my bed, and when I fell asleep I would just have nightmares. I could barely sleep for the first 5 years. After this, kept on having just visions of her being stabbed, and took me like a few years to understand that she wasn't in her body anymore. And it took 3 years before they found the guy who killed her. So he's in prison right now. And yeah, I might touch more on the aspect of him. I might touch on that a little bit later. But this is basically what happened. And so for the first 5 years, I was extremely numb and closed down, just angry with the world, angry with men. I was super angry feminist, like demonstrating in the streets and being just like so pissed off with the entire system and the entire world. I was extremely afraid of death, and yet I was contemplating suicide pretty much all the time, because it felt like that was the only way out. And I had kind of a number of, you could say, like half-assed suicide attempts where I would cut my wrists, but then not really go through with it fully, because I felt like I couldn't do that to my parents. I couldn't take away their other child as well. So mom and dad, if you ever watch this, then, you were the ones that kept me here. Because in those, I remember also feeling like, almost like a feeling like it should have been me or something, that I didn't deserve to still be here. But then the feeling was like, there was just no way that I could do that to my parents. So even in those moments when it felt like that would have been the easy option out, or the only way out, then there was still that something that kept me here. And now, of course, I'm so grateful that I didn't. And a part of all of this, of course, redefining death and realizing that death ultimately and profoundly does not exist. But back then, I really did believe that death was something horrible, something negative, and I was afraid of it. So, but anyway, so that's like the first 5 years after. And then the summer when I had just turned 17, so the summer of 2003, a number of things happened that profoundly changed everything. And I'll give you the summary of what that was. So I think the first event this summer was that I had a very, very, very strong meeting with my sister. I remember one evening I was at a friend's place, Hannah. We were like 5 best girlfriends who always stuck together and always did everything together. And so we were hanging out there, and I was just like laying in I think in Hannah's arms and just crying and shaking. And I was like, I don't know how a person can do this to another human being. And I was in so much resistance and feeling of being victimized, and also feeling sad and expressing like I really just want to have some kind of a sign from her that she still exists, that there's still, you know, that there is a life after death, etc. But because I hadn't really, like, I've had some kind of connections, like a felt sense. I remember me and my mom often had this felt sense of like there was a presence on our left side of our body. We would often feel that at the same time, especially for the first few years. And so that was like a subtle sign, but I wanted something stronger than that. And then the next day, when I walked into my mom's bedroom to get my clothes out of the closet, because this, my old bedroom where my sister died, we turned that into a meditation space. So we had the whole like floor and door and everything just redone and replaced, so everything would be fresh and clean and new. And then we energetically cleared the space, and this became a meditation room. And then I had moved into my sister's bedroom. But anyway, so my closet was in my mom's bedroom, and I walked in to get some clothes out of my closet. And out of the corner of my eye, like top corner, I could see a light, and I looked up towards the ceiling, and there was this light just hovering under the ceiling, like emanating. I couldn't see any source of the light. It was just more like light being there. And it was this like warm, white, pulsating golden light that was just hanging there, basically. And I stood there for a while, kind of couldn't really believe my eyes. And then I called my mom who was in the kitchen. Like, Mom, you gotta come in and see this. And she came in. I was like, can you see this light? And she said that she couldn't, but I could. And I stood there for a very long time, just gazing at this until I left the room, basically. And so that was the first time that I had that really strong and clear connection, experientially. And in around the same time period, I had, I think actually it was my mother or my godmother who had handed me the book Conversations with God, which if you read it, you know that, you know, it's not unique in its message about oneness and about the inherent unity of all of life and everything. But for me, that was the first time that I had come into contact with the concept of oneness and co-creation. And so I was reading that book, and then one night I had a dream. Which the details of the dream are not important, but basically I dreamt that I met, in the dream it was like a very strong meeting with, you could say, God or source, in the form of a man, a woman, and a bird. So like the Holy Trinity kind of experience. I was still a little bit in the kind of Christian framework at this time, so it makes sense it came in 3 parts in the dream. But basically, again, the details are completely irrelevant in a way. But the experience that I had was that when I woke up the next morning, I was in my dad's house in my bedroom on the top floor. When I woke up that morning, I woke up and it was literally like everything in my experience and everything in my felt sense of reality had changed completely. Like it wasn't like a subtle small difference, it was like everything was completely different. And I remember looking around the room, looking at the trees out through the window and the sun filtering in through the trees, and looking down on my body, looking at everything and being like, oh my God, there is no separation between anything in existence. And it was the feeling of a complete sense of just bathing in love. It was a complete sense of just being held in such a deep love that it's just like beyond anything I could ever possibly describe. Immense, profound, all-encompassing love that I was just bathing in. And in that moment, it was the feeling like I just knew that I never have to be afraid of anything ever again. It was a full body, complete knowing of just the inherent benevolence and safety and everything. And that feeling has not left me since that morning, which is now 13 and a half years ago. it was a complete quantum shift from the night before to the morning after, where I went to bed feeling super fearful as usual and woke up just bathing in this love. And I still to this day can't explain it. It was just like everything had changed from the evening before to the morning after. And that same summer, like a couple of weeks later, I think, I stumbled into my first Tantra workshop. I was in Ängsbacka in Sweden at the No Mind Festival, and I thought that I was going to a yoga festival because I had already been doing yoga for about 2 years then. I was dancing and doing yoga a lot. But they also offered Tantra workshops in this festival. And so I came into my first Tantra workshop, which was with Gita Ma, who is now the founder of Wild Tantra. And for the first time ever, I saw men and women not just respecting each other, because before that, my thing was really like respect. But men and women relating to each other with devotion and with celebration. And for the first time, seeing men and women bowing down to each other and honoring each other and loving each other. And it shook me to the core and it blew me away. And it just started to crack me open. Because I had never experienced connection with a man or a guy where there is an honoring, where there is devotion, where there's love, and when there is the profound seeing of the beauty in the other. And that same summer, I started with Tantra, with breath work, with Osho meditations, with ecstatic dance, 5 rhythms dance, deeper body work. I think I mentioned breath work as well. And went quite deep into Tantra and started releasing from my system. So this is what sent me on the path. And in this, I could see profoundly the inherent unity of and co-orchestration of everything, and the perfection in, you could say, everything that has happened and everything that happens always. Let's see what I want to share right now. Basically, before this, when somebody would ask me how I feel about the man who killed my sister, I would have said, well, you know, I don't hate him, but I will never be able to forgive him. Because for me to not hold on to hatred was the first big step, because it was really like eating me from the inside. But I had said up until this point that, you know, that's unforgivable. Like, there's no way you can forgive somebody raping and killing your sister. But then when I opened up in this way, and I opened up into the experience of oneness, and I, from that perspective, could zoom out, or zooming out happened, you could say, where I could see the entire cycle of pain, inflicting pain, inflicting pain, inflicting pain, inflicting pain, and how that, like, somebody experiencing pain and then putting that into another person, or in some cases in themselves, if we're talking about suicide or self-punishment, but basically a cycle of pain and fear and contraction, just continuing itself through generations, through thousands of years. And I don't know much about it, but as far as I understand, this guy was from El Salvador. I believe he had been in the guerrilla there, and I don't remember again the details of it, but as far as I understand, he's been through some pretty horrendous things in his life, because no happy, balanced human being goes and rapes and kills somebody. And so from that perspective, I could see the pain that he was coming from, and I could also see the innocence in him. And so forgiveness for me, first of all, has nothing to do with the other person. It doesn't require anything from the other person. And also, it's not about saying that the action was okay or condoning the behavior, but it's recognizing that somebody was in such disconnection and in such pain that they could do something like that, and forgiving that, as well as seeing that from an even more zoomed out perspective is actually nothing to forgive. Because the way life experience is set up for us humans in this realm and in this world of duality and of experiences, the genius of this, for infinity to know itself experientially, which is essentially what this is all about, what this is all, you know, playing out as, for life to know itself experientially, there has to be the possibility of everything. For us to have the experience of love, there has to be the possibility of the experience of being cut off from love or fear or separation. For us to have the experience of joy, there has to be the possibility of sadness or of anger or depression. For us to have the experience of forgiveness, there has to be something to forgive. You know, you could extrapolate this to anything. That the genius of the life experience is that so that we can know ourselves not just as a concept of universal divine love, but experientially. We are coming into this life experience of contrast and of duality so that we can discover experientially, not just wake up and just be love, which is possible. Like some people genuinely come into this world and they are just here to beam love to everyone, and that's that. But for most of us, it's like going through the experience of separation and fear so that we can choose to open up into love. And so with this, I could see the absolutely perfect orchestration of everything that happens, as well as profoundly realizing, experiencing that death does not exist. It is literally an illusion. That when the body falls away, it's just like, I think Marianne Williamson once described death as like taking off a tight shoe. It's like death is not the violence. The violence is taking infinity and encapsulating into this and having it forget that it is immortal and infinite. And death is actually the greatest ecstatic orgasmic release, you could say. Just the other day, I was sitting with a friend at Villa Kasha here in Bali, and he was sharing about he had met a man who could remember all of his past lives. And this man, he was sharing with my friend Brian that the most beautiful memory that he has from all of his past life was one moment when he was, this was like in the medieval times, and he was about to be beheaded, about to be decapitated. He was like with his head in the guillotine. And he remembers like the whole town being there, like cheering this on and stuff. And then this guillotine dropping and his head falling off his body. And in this moment, he just experienced like exploding into bliss and ecstasy and complete union with all of existence. And this for him was like the most, to go for, in one instance, from such pain and contraction and suffering into complete bliss and infinite openness in one moment. That was his most beautiful memory that he shared. And again, we could say like, oh, is that true? Is somebody making it up? Whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's the point is that death does not simply exist. And so from the perspective of our soul or our higher self, from the perspective of that part of us, the greater part of us, which can never die, which transcends and traverses lifetimes, no harm is ever done. And from that level, everything is co-created. Everything is perfectly orchestrated. Not by some outer force, but in accordance. It's a co-agreement. Every single experience is co-agreed upon from the broader perspective, from that part of us that can never die. And I don't know the specifics of exactly why it happened or why this or whatever, but this is basically what happened, at least in this parallel timeline reality that we're experiencing. And who's to say what is good and what is bad? Yes, if I could snap my fingers and have her come back into physical reality, I would do that, absolutely, with no hesitation. You know, there's still a part of me that misses her, like wonders like what it would be like to still have a 6 years older sister that I can hang out with. But I profoundly do not believe in mistakes. I don't believe in mistakes in anywhere in the universe. It's like either I trust the infinite intelligence of life and of existence, or I don't. It's not like I trust it 80% of the time. I profoundly trust the unfolding of this life experience. And so from that perspective, very quickly, it was really easy for me then to forgive the man who killed her and just be like, okay, from the bottom of my heart, I forgive you and I see your innocence. And I have a feeling like one day I'll probably meet him. Not something that I'm seeking in this moment, but it feels like that's most likely going to happen at some point. And I'll probably receive the guidance when that is time. And with this also, who is to say what is positive and what is negative? Because if from one perspective, traumatic experience of one person or somebody being raped and killed and people feeling stuff about it, okay, Ron says, can you move the mic so you're being heard better? I think this mic is picking up into what I'm recording, and that the camera is picking up into what you guys are hearing. So hopefully you can still, you can still hear me okay. But yeah, so if the quote-unquote traumatic experience of one person can lead to the healing of thousands, then who is to say what is a negative experience? Because this is what sent me on the path of everything. And since then, I have worked with hundreds of women who have been through sexual abuse. I've been giving yoni release sessions and yoni healing sessions for the last 6 years. And I've worked with more women than I can count, and women experiencing so much profound healing and opening. And so again, who is to say what is a positive experience and what is a negative experience? It all depends on your alignment, your perspective, and your zoomed out or zoomed inness in terms of looking at an event. And so since then, I have been on a journey of healing or transformation. The things that have opened the space for me the most have definitely been work in terms of tantra, breath work, body work, massage, yoni healing, conscious catharsis experiences, as well as waking up to realizing that there is an inherent unity in everything, and that anything that I might be experiencing in this life, even though it's seemingly other people, is inherently emanations of the same one consciousness that is living all of us. And so from the age of 17, I went deep into tantric work and into opening and melting my body, because I used to be so completely frozen and shut down and numb, and I couldn't feel anything. I used to be just completely stuck in fear in my whole system. And so with this, when I started with the tantric work when I was 17, I didn't feel ready at that time to engage intimately with anyone, because I felt like I had so much to release. Like there was literally so much pain and so much, even though that I had this awakening realization, the body is slower to catch on usually. So the body was still holding a lot of trauma in its system. And so I felt like I didn't feel ready to receive anybody intimately yet. So I was practicing Tantra quite intensely for 2.5 years before I had sex the first time. So now you're getting a bit more of the personal story here as well, like losing my virginity. I was 19 and a half. I had the opportunity many times before, but I basically said no because I did not feel ready before this. So I did 2.5 years of Tantra and release work and opening my energy pathways and opening my breath and sound and body. And then I started being intimate. And so I've never had that weird, awkward, horrible first time that so many people report about being like 14 and drunk and whatever. Like the first time, again, without going into too many details, it was like the most beautiful experience ever. He had lit candles in the entire space. He gave me like an 1.5 hour full body massage with oil, with so much love and care. And then from that space, we made love, and it was absolutely magical right from the start. So that was my way in. So my way into intimacy and sexuality was really through the path of Tantra. I think I watched porn the first time when I was like 25 or something. Like, I've been very, very blissfully like oblivious of that whole world. So yeah, that's basically been the journey. And here we are now. And then since then, I've had other awakening experiences as well. A big, profound one was about 1.5 years ago, something like that, where I experienced another dropping of the identification of the holding on to the sense of separate self. And so a lot has happened since then, but this was the first big catalyst, the first big shift that happened that sent me on this path. And so I felt moved to share this, also to give a bit more context to everything that I do and why I do it. Because I know that, like, from this perspective now, and having an experience of being so joyful in life and feeling so grateful and so ecstatically connected in life and to everything, then sometimes people who just come in from this perspective and they see what I do, they might have the idea like, oh, she's just kind of always been happy, which is like so far from the case. It's kind of insane. And so, okay, it was rubbing on my mic. Okay, so the sound is actually coming in through this one. Okay, let me see if I can just put that in a different way. So that is basically it. That is basically it, what I feel moved to share right now. I'm gonna in a moment go into sharing a bit more of different kind of practices that can really, really deeply help to open up, that have helped me tremendously. I just see now that I actually have 4% battery left on my computer, so I just want to go and get my cable and plug in. So in the meantime, feel free to share in the chat if there's anything you feel moved to share right now. I see that there's a lot of comments that have been coming in. A lot of love. Thank you so much. Okay, the mic makes a little noise when you move. Thank you so much for letting me know. Then I will try to keep this one more still as we continue. But I'm just scanning the comments right now. Thank you so much for your comments, for your sharing. Susan says, crying with you, happy you're still here. Thank you. Jesus Christ, I was on my way out so many times. If I had only known back then. Okay, let me just go and plug in. So if at this point you want to share anything, then you can type in the chat and I'll be back in just half a minute. I'm just going to get my cable and plug in. Okay, we are back. So yeah, thank you so much for your beautiful shares as well. Helen says your words and story and perspective are so deeply inspirational. Hold on, let me get this back. Sorry about that. So thank you so much for your shares as well. Catherine says to be on the journey to release all the pain and to open the breath, the heart, and the sound. That impacts me a lot. Yeah, so that is actually a perfect lead-in to what I want to share, which is a summary of the rundown of the kind of practices that I have been through and that I would recommend to you as well if you're wanting to release more from your system. And actually wrote down a list of all of these so that because it's like a lot, so just to make sure that I cover everything. Alicia says, life knowing itself by opposites. Thank you for this perspective to forgive. Kai is asking, I'm still wondering whether it's possible to resolve a trauma without knowing what it is. It said that it's possible, but I'm struggling with it. What is your take on it? It's definitely possible. It's definitely possible. And I might just start by sharing about how that is done, because that is one of the top points that I wrote down in terms of how to heal. So first of all, I want to say that all of this, like all of the trauma healing and all of the trauma release, in a way, points us back to returning to wholeness, points us back to returning to our naturalness, our natural untouched openness. and returning to sexual wholeness. And I'm going to go into this a lot deeper when we go into the training in the Sensual Hygiene Academy about how to return to sexual innocence, play, honoring, pleasure, and sacredness. Because those are the 5 different levels of sexual wholeness that we can move into in specific ways. And when all of those 5, the innocence, the play, the honoring, the pleasure, and the sacredness, when they are all fully reclaimed and embodied, then we are in a place where we can experience a lot of sexual openness and pleasure and ecstasy in a very, very deeply holistic way, where nothing is suppressed or hidden or pushed away or denied. So that's, you could say, that's like the true north. That's where we are moving towards. Although it's not a moving towards like this, it's more a dropping away within ourselves that reveals that naturalness. And so the first tool that I want to share with you is conscious catharsis, which could be described as liberating breath, sound, and movement. And so there are different ways of doing this. And let's see, who was asking? Kai, you were asking about if it's possible to release this without knowing the specifics of what happened. And yes, this is one of the ways. Because when you allow the body to release, to sound, to move, to shake, to release whatever is stuck in the system, then that will move itself out. And it might come together with memories. It might come together with insights or with the specifics of something you could say that happened, or it might just be an energetic and emotional release. And so no, it's not necessary at all to know the specifics of something. I've had many experiences where something really, really, really fucking big releases from my system, and I have no idea what the specifics of that was. Other times I have been, say, in a breathwork session or in a bodywork session or dancing or shaking or anything else, and I get a specific memory, something that I had forgotten about, and it releases, and I feel the memory as well as the emotions that are locked in with that memory or associated with it, and it releases, and it's like a specific clearing. So both are possible, but yeah, no, it's not necessary at all to know the specifics. And the more you go into conscious catharsis, the more the intelligence of your body and your energy system will release whatever needs to be released and uncontracted for more openness and love and healing to simply be the case there. And so, so in this, okay, so I'm just going to mention these things because it's not really possible to teach everything right now. That would take a lot more time. But there are specific practices like the wood chopper, pillow pounding, running and pounding release, allowing your body to go fucking wild, reclaiming boundaries, toning, shaking, Ashadhanamic meditation, all meditation, and ecstatic dance, that are specific conscious catharsis practices. But basically what they all point to is allowing your body to go into a state of wildness, a state of freedom, and to express and release in whatever way comes, in whatever way is necessary in that moment. And so this can be through allowing the body to shake and to release and to move in a way that completes what is called the stress cycle. You'll see this in animals a lot as well, but if an animal is attacked or is shot, for example, especially like animals who are shot with tranquilizers, they're not able to run away because of the stuff that comes into their body and kind of immobilizes them. When they are able to move again, their body will run, it will shake, it will cathart, and complete basically that which was not expressed or embodied in the moment of shock. And so similarly, whenever you are having a strong experience, say a strong traumatic experience in your life, and you're not able to release that in that moment because you don't have the wisdom, the safety, the guidance, the tools, the capability in that moment to fully express, release, and integrate and assimilate that experience, then it will almost always get lodged in your system, in your body, in your cells, in your body, and in your physical memory, and be stored there until at some point at a later stage in your life, you do feel safe enough to release it, and it can actually rise to the surface and be released. And so with this, when we go into the art of conscious catharsis and releasing, very often, almost always, when we start to open, then all this shit will begin to rise to the surface. And when that happens, it's like, oh shit, I thought that was beyond this by now, or like I thought that I had released this already, or I had forgotten about this. I can't believe it's showing up now. That is actually a good sign. There seems to be an intelligence in the release process. This has been my experience over the last 13 years of being in this quite intensely, is that there is an intelligence to the release process. It's not that you're going to be overwhelmed with more than you can handle, but there is actually an inherent intelligence in the release process that happens. Meaning that when there is more than enough, love, wisdom, presence, insight, and consciousness to hold the space for the experience, that's when it's going to rise to the surface. Not so that you can have the feeling of like regressing or going back in evolution, but just so that you can see that part of you, or you can welcome that part of you, so that literally this younger or more like perceivably traumatized part of you can come up to be seen, loved, embraced, healed, and released. And released, I don't mean that part of you necessarily. It's not that you're going to get rid of your inner child, but that the contraction is released by holding and welcoming everything that shows up. And so when we are moving into the healing process, it requires the courage and the willingness to feel everything. Because when we move into tantric work, very often we can have the idea that, oh, I'm going to just experiencing a lot more pleasure. But no, yeah, you are going to experience a lot more pleasure. Like literally, so much pleasure will open up to you that is absolutely guaranteed. Absolutely guaranteed. And at the same time, in that experience, and it's not even on the way to it, because you can have like pleasure and emotional release in different layers and in different cycles. But as a part of the process, both the pleasure will show up as well as anything that is a denial of the pleasure or that is still a contraction in your system. And so on the path to 5-hour orgasms, it's very often intense emotional release. And so this brings me to another point, which is the importance of recognizing the inherent spaciousness of existence, the inherent openness and freedom of consciousness itself. Because when we are completely identified with the emotional story, when we are completely identified with the stuff that is showing up, when we are having the feeling like, oh, I'm feeling this and I shouldn't be feeling this, that is a sign that we are identifying with the story. But when we can recognize that there is an inherent spaciousness, an inherent silence, an inherent complete, spacious, boundless, open freedom, which is essentially simply the field of awareness that holds the space for all experiences to come and go. When we can rest as that, as the emotions are playing out and as the emotions are releasing, then the resistance to the experience falls away, and we can actually hold the space, very much like a parent to a child, hold space and be like, hey, it's okay, I got you. It's okay, you can feel everything. I love you and I'm here for you. And even when there is a feeling of self-hatred, because that is something that I used to be stuck in for many years, even after this dropping into oneness, that was still a recurring thing, actually on and off up until about 1.5 years ago. A recurring feeling of that, I've had this realization, therefore I should be beyond all of this now, therefore I shouldn't be feeling like this anymore. And so there was still quite a profound rejection of self on many levels in my system, up until pretty recently, where there was a feeling of like, oh, I should be beyond this by now, I shouldn't be feeling like this anymore, why am I still stuck in this? Even that is arising within a field of unconditional love. And that field of unconditional love, which is basically simply the nature of this moment, the nature of existence itself, that field of unconditional love, just by virtue of it being unconditional, it is always here, regardless of whether we are recognizing it or not. And so in this moment, if you are feeling like there's something stuck in your system, or if you're experiencing judgment towards yourself, or if you are having an opinion about yourself that speaks to, or that says something along the lines of that you should be different than how you are right now, if you're experiencing any judgment or rejection of self or of the experience, even that is arising within a field of all-encompassing acceptance. Because the nature of reality, the nature of existence itself is pure open infinity, there can be no inherent resistance within existence towards any part of it showing up to itself. And so when we align our perspective with the perspective of life itself, then we are just inherently experiencing that same oneness and acceptance. And so when that happens, when that shift happens, when you really tap into the connection with existence itself and with this pure space of open awareness, then there's a natural acceptance and embrace of all life experiences that come with this. Meaning that now, even as I'm experiencing, because it's not that emotions go away or disappear, it's just that there's no resistance to them anymore. So even now, sometimes when I'm experiencing sadness or feeling vulnerable or feeling shaky or feeling like I don't know how to figure something out, there's a feeling quality within myself that it's like, hey, sweetheart, you're feeling a bit shaky. Hey, I love you. It's okay. My beautiful, beautiful human girl, woman, I love you and accept you, and you can feel anything, and I'm here for you. And so that is another part, to cultivate both the space of pure open awareness, which you could say is just a space that is completely untouched. Nothing ever happens to this awareness, but everything arises, comes and goes within the field of awareness, but awareness itself is untouched. That is one aspect of it. The next layer, you could say, from this space of open awareness is disposition or an approach of loving, compassionate presence. So there's not just a feeling of, oh, I'm completely untouched by this, because that can also be a space where you can hide and cop out and try to not feel, like exactly Willem just says in the chat, like, I am not my feelings. But if you're having this feeling like, oh, I'm not my feelings, but there's a feeling of needing to pull away, you're still avoiding something. Because when this has fully dropped in, avoidance disappears. And even if avoidance shows up in a moment, there's a feeling of like, oh, okay, sweetheart, that's a part of me that wants to avoid something. Can we look at that? So you become this like inner loving presence for yourself as well as for other people. You know, when there's nothing to defend anymore, nothing to avoid, then you can actually become curious and actually recognize that conflict is healing wanting to happen. Stuff coming up is a pocket of contraction that is wanting to return into the free flow of love and openness and acceptance and unity. And so then we are able to hold a space for anything that shows up within ourselves as well as within another person, because there's nothing to defend anymore, because we are not identified with the separate self that needs to defend itself. It's like we get on the side of life itself and then everything is naturally embraced and welcomed. Okay, so let me see what else I had written down. So I wrote down about emotional healing, tenderness. Yeah, recognizing, understanding, embracing, and loving subpersonalities. I'll go into that more deeply when we go into the training in the Sensual Hygiene Academy, about how to map your inner landscape and really very clearly recognizing the stuff and the different parts of your personality that are coming up, so that you don't have to be stuck in that cycle of self-judgment and loop of resistance. And a general loving embrace of everything that shows up. Also going deeper into forgiveness, which again for me really has to do with zooming out and seeing the entire perspective, seeing the innocence in yourself, seeing the innocence in another. And there are some, if forgiveness doesn't come naturally or spontaneously for you in this moment, then there are some beautiful practices and processes that I will guide you through, where you can have the experience of deeply and profoundly forgiving anyone in your life, whether it's yourself or another person or the government or whatever. I also wrote down seeing the perfection and trusting life. And bringing the love. Okay, so I'm glad that I made these notes to myself, because bringing the love is another aspect that came to me very profoundly and very deeply in this moment. Like I shared when I had just turned 17 and I was going through this experience of dropping into oneness and forgiveness, is that I very, very logically, like logic is sometimes underestimated, I very, very logically saw that love and forgiveness is the most functional. It's the only thing that works, literally. You know, for example, like if a door doesn't open, like if the hinges are set in such a way that you can't open the door, it's not that the door is morally wrong, it's just that it's not functional. Like if you want to be able to open a door, it's functional to make sure that the hinges can open. And simultaneously, like, or similarly, that if you want to have all this, let me bring it down to myself here, that I very clearly and profoundly saw that if boundless love is what I wish for the world, and it is, then the only functional thing is love and forgiveness. If I want to live in a world that's loving, or I want to have a life experience that is loving, it just simply doesn't work to hold on to stuff. And also from a very like kind of down to earth perspective, I also feel like crazy shit happens every single day in the world, and it sucks in a way. From one perspective, it sucks. And yes, a part of me, like there's an innocence in me that wishes that people would just get along and just cuddle instead of kill. But fact is, right now, at least in this earth realm, you know, maybe if somebody finds this webinar 1,000 years from now, they were like, oh, you still had war and violence in your world? That's crazy. Why would anybody do that? But present moment, 2017, crazy shit happens in the world, and it kind of sucks, and we can wish that it didn't do so. But the point is not to hold on to stuff and to say like, oh, this happened and it's so sad and poor me, and this is going to be my excuse for living halfway for the rest of my life. That is completely pointless. It's like, okay, shit happens. What are you bringing? What are you bringing in this? I heard a talk with Marianne Williamson a couple of years ago when she said that what holds us back in life is not so much the love we didn't receive in the past, but the love we're not bringing in the present. Because that is the only thing that is actually in our power, is to live and be that. And I also simply got the insight, and the metaphor was like, if you are in a dark room, I'm not talking about the dark room, like, you know, that I've been in like this darkness retreats and I love it. But like, if you say it metaphorically, if you're in a dark room and you want the darkness to go away, it's a fucking crappy idea to like pull the blinds and shut the door and make it even darker. You bring in a light, right? That's the only thing that works. That's the only thing that actually solves it. That's the only thing that's functional. In the same way that the only way to overcome or win over whatever you want to say, like dissolve fear and hatred and separation, is by love and forgiveness, as well as recognizing profoundly that there are no mistakes. Everything is perfectly co-created and co-orchestrated. All has to do with the perspective you're looking from. And so it was just realizing that there's nothing else to do. You know, forgiveness is natural. Forgiveness, like when we can zoom out and see the whole perspective, see the pain as well as the innocence of the other person, as well as the perfection of life experience, and the complexity, which is way beyond the scope of our human mind and imagination, then forgiveness comes naturally. It's just like, oh, that happened. What am I bringing? How can I live the healed version of this? If you're holding on to resentment because your parents did something, whether it's that they shut you up when you wanted to sing when you were 5, or that your dad raped you, or that somebody shamed you when you were caught masturbating when you were 13, whatever they did was the best that they could do given their imprint and their view of the world and their set of pain imprints that they were carrying in this moment, in that moment, which they might have released now, or they might have still be carrying that for the rest of their lives, or might die with it, and then they go into the next life experience. But just seeing that zoomed out perspective of like everyone doing what seems to them to be of the greatest benefit and the greatest service, whether it's serving an ego contracted need for superficial pleasure or some kind of twisted sexual urge experience that leads somebody to rape their child, or whether it's thinking that they are doing you a service because they experience that sex is shameful. So if they shame you for being sexual, for masturbating, or for having sexual desires, they believe they're actually protecting you, maybe even ensuring that you get into heaven, if we want to bring in the religious perspective. Like, we all just do our fucking best, you know? So with that compassion and with that clarity of seeing in the perspective, then forgiveness is natural. Then, apart from this, there are some very specific physical and energetic healing techniques that you can do. And you'll be guided to what resonates. Again, in the Sensual Yogini video training series, and it's going to be like basically starting from next week, where you're going to go more deeply into actually learning these modalities and learning these techniques, and I'll guide you through some experiential practices to the point where you're empowered so that you can release this on your own, you know, like in your own life, as well as you might be guided to actually seek out a personal coach or body worker or therapist that can guide you through this, or even a workshop retreat. We do a lot of the emotional release and opening as whatever's showing up in the Ecstatic Awakening Retreat. That's one of the reasons why the Ecstatic Awakening Retreat is so incredibly ecstatic. It's because we learn how to open the full spectrum of emotional experience and of life experience without any resistance or judgment. And when we are held in that kind of love, where we feel like we can just be everything and we are unconditionally loved, that actually opens up for a lot of ecstasy and a lot of pleasure. So that's one of the experiences in the Ecstatic Awakening Retreat, but I'll touch upon this also more in the video training, as well as, you know, in any kind of live retreat you might attend with me or with us in the years to come. And if you feel like you want to have more like one-on-one attention, then you reach out and we can, you know, create some kind of a one-on-one coaching experience. But basically, just to touch upon it briefly now, the modalities that have helped me the most, I would say, are massage and body work. So deep somatic release and fascia release, and deep like body de-armoring, which is basically releasing the panzer or the tension from the body. Transformational breath work. I am myself a transformational breath coach, which is so you might be familiar with TB, transformational breath, holotropic breath work, rebirthing, quantum light breath, breath of bliss. Like, there are so many beautiful breath works. Whatever calls you, I would say go for that. You know, trust your guidance on that. But that breath work is one of the fastest and deepest ways to release trauma from your system. Again, without having to know, without needing to know why something happened. The breath is literally the bridge between the subconscious or the unconscious and the conscious, because it's one of those, it's like our heart rate and our breath, but especially the breath is like the number one thing that is both a function in the body that is automatic, that belongs to a certain part of our nervous system and our wiring, and it keeps on going whether we think about it or not. You know, nobody's ever died just from like forgetting to breathe. Like, your body just breathes. That's natural. And we can also consciously affect the breath. So, you know, which I'm not going to go into at all today, but we can literally breathe ourselves into an orgasm without touching anything within a few minutes, when we have actually opened enough for this. We can breathe ourselves into a trance state. We can breathe ourselves into the DMT state. We can breathe ourselves into deep, calm clarity and focus. And we can breathe ourselves into healing. And so transformational breath has been the one that has helped me the most. And again, there are many different breath modalities. I think they're all good in their own way. If you feel called to that, then I'll be guiding a few breath practices that you can do by yourself. And I would also recommend, especially if you're working through something really intense, like rape or something really severe, or if you simply feel like you would like that extra guidance and like your body is so frozen that you don't feel like you can trust it or trust yourself to hold that space, then I would super recommend really going to a coach or a therapist, So if you go to the Transformational Breath website, then you can see people who are doing that. And there are many other kind of breath modalities that are fantastic as well. So life will most likely show you the way to the right guide and the right person, somebody who's able to really hold the space for you and know that whatever shows up, you can actually be guided through the process into the full release of that. Together with the breath work is a tool called toning, which is basically where, so screaming, for example, on the realm of conscious catharsis, screaming is incredibly healing. Like if you have never allowed yourself to scream, to voice, to really fully let out your primal roar and scream, as well as if there's, like in my case, when I found out that my sister had been killed, there was a feeling of like a silent scream being stuck in my system. And so actually allowing your voice and screaming, and again, this can be under the guidance of somebody, or it can be in a workshop, like if you do Osho Dynamic or the Osho Aum meditation, then screaming can be incredibly healing. I'm just looking at through my balcony doors now, and there's a guy on the other side of the river climbing a coconut tree. Yeah, I should show you around maybe before we log off, just to see like my view here. The jungle here is so beautiful. I don't know if you can hear the jungle, it's pretty loud. But anyway, side note. So yeah, screaming can be profoundly healing. And also toning, which is basically, it's similar, it's also voice, but rather than screaming, it is simply like you feel a strong emotion come up and you tone on the sound of ah. And you tone as well as let your body just go crazy and let it out, like whatever needs to happen. There are some specific techniques to this as well that I can share in the next part of this. The next time we come together with the Century Yogini women. And guys, by the way, if you're hearing this and you're like, oh, but I'm a guy and I want to go and come in on this, then we'll figure out a way that you can actually be a part of that as well. And maybe I'll do something specific for men. We'll find out. I'm also right now, by the way, putting together a men's sexual mastery coaching program where I want to work in depth one-on-one with maximum 10 men. So that's like still in the making. It's still in the works. But if you're on my email list, which I think all of you are because you're here, then I'll send out information about that. But basically in the upcoming training with the Century Yogini, then I'll share more about toning, because it's a very profound and powerful and very graceful and gentle way to release, to permanently carry out of the system stuck trauma. And Willem says, I indeed experienced that breath work with toning really worked for me. Yeah, it's super powerful, super powerful. You might even feel called to doing transformational breath coach training, which could be super beautiful as well, because then you are also going through the process yourself. EFT is another one. EFT, also known as tapping, which is when you tap on different meridian points in the body, that basically helps to cancel out the neural pathways in the brain that, when there is a traumatic experience and that gets lodged in our system, that for our brain is like a very imprint imprint. And there's a part of our brain called the amygdala which its only job is basically to alert us to potential dangers based on past traumatic experiences. And so when we've had a traumatic experience, anytime something similar to that shows up in our life, the amygdala in our brain will signal red alert to us, whether that is, say, for example, maybe you grew up in Australia where there's all these like dangerous spiders, and you were a baby and a spider was crawling on your arm, and your mother comes in and she's like, oh, danger, like throws the spider away, and you get this imprint of like that feeling of that. Maybe you were even like, oh, this is a nice little thing, but then your mother comes in and you get this imprint that like something crawling on your arm like this is a signal for like mortal danger. And then you forget about this experience consciously, and then like 15 years later you're with your first boyfriend and it tickles your arm softly, and for no conscious reason your whole system goes red alert, because it reminds your system of the spider crawling and the danger that was associated with this. So this applies across the board with traumatic experiences. It's like how our brains get wired. And so EFT or tapping is a way to basically cancel out those neural pathways in the brain to the point where you can still have a traumatic, like you can still have a memory of something, but it doesn't trigger you, like it doesn't hijack your emotional experience. EFT or tapping has been used extremely successfully with PTSD people in Rwanda, where there's been a lot of genocide and horrendous experiences, where they have used a lot of EFT with the children. And like 90+% of everyone basically gets their trauma released from the system in a really profound way. EFT, I don't do so much anymore because now I'm just kind of open and spacious and happy. But in the past, when I was super stuck, then I used to do that a lot and experience really profound release of that. Body de-armoring I already mentioned, but I also want to mention yoni release and vaginal de-armoring, as well as genital de-armoring for men. But basically, our genital area, especially for women, but also men in different ways, we store sexual trauma or tension. For women specifically, because our vagina is so receptive, it's like it literally absorbs energy and takes on energy from experiences and from other people. So yoni release, which is basically like internal body work or internal de-armoring or internal shiatsu, you could say, where you find points inside the vagina that are holding on to tension, pain, numbness, or stuckness in some way, or fear. Usually there's an emotional component or many emotional layers to the physical or energetic stuckness that yoni release or vaginal de-armoring can profoundly release. I have been giving these sessions for the last 6 years, and it's been like insanely astonishing and beautiful to hear about and to witness the transformations that happen. I've had women who have been through sexual abuse and then come for a session. We do yoni release, either one session or a few sessions. And then they call me up later and they say, Ronja, thank you so much. I have never been able to explore. So I've never been able to enjoy sex before. I've always just felt so numb and cut off. And now for the first time, I can feel. For the first time, I experience orgasm during intercourse. For the first time, I can actually open up and feel this orgasmic vibration in my being. And so it's not necessarily the case that that's going to happen in one session. Sometimes it's a longer process, but that's basically what it does. It takes you from numbness into orgasmic openness through the method of releasing physical, energetic, and emotional trauma and stuckness from your system. And then once that is opened, then there's a natural orgasmicness that is inherent in all of us. I've also worked some with men who have been through sexual abuse, where we are releasing the fear from their system as well, which is usually held in the genital region or in the anus. They can also be a lot held in the anal region for women as well. And so there are different ways to just release this from the system so that you can feel more free and open and spacious, and you can enjoy lovemaking like so much more. It's kind of indescribable, like what is possible. And personally, in yoni release sessions, I have literally had the experience of like the physical sensations of knives going up into my vagina. That's been the feeling, like the felt sensation of like being stabbed inside. And I believe that my sister was stabbed inside, as far as I understand. She was stabbed pretty much everywhere. And so, and again, energetically, I picked this up, and I've had the experience of releasing that. And I've had many yoni release sessions over the last 8 to 9 years. You know, the first time I discovered this was with an ex-boyfriend when we were making love. This was like back in 2008. And he hit a point inside that felt painful. And I expressed that it was feeling painful. He was basically hitting my, like touching my cervix. And he asked if I wanted him to pull out. And I was like, no, just stay there and see what happens. And he stayed, and he kept on pushing into it. And I was breathing through it, and I could feel emotions releasing, and I could feel it starting to pulsate and become more soft. And I was like, wow, I've never experienced something like this. But actually the courage to stay and feel what is there as opposed to pull away. Because a lot of men and women think that when you penetrate onto a woman's cervix, not into but onto, like when you hit, like when you pound or thrust and touch a woman's cervix, that has to be painful. That is absolutely not the case. Once the tension and the emotions have been released from the cervix, then that is literally the source, or one of the sources of the deepest and most profound orgasmic experiences that are available to women as well as to their partners. Because as a man, when you're with a woman who has her cervix open and released, then you are also tapping into an incredible wellspring of orgasmic openness and sensation and feeling. And so that is profoundly helpful. There's a question about if there's an equivalent of yoni release for men. Yeah, definitely. As men, you can be very desensitized and tense around your lingam, around your cock, around your genital area, which has to do often with sexual shame, contraction, a feeling like sex is something negative or something you need to hide, performance anxiety, the feeling like you have to perform, you have to have an erection, you have to satisfy your woman. Like all of this just fucks with your brain in a way that you can't actually enjoy sex to the fullest, because your mind is there, your body is there, blocking, modifying this experience. And so through, again, conscious catharsis, accessing your primal nature, accessing your naturalness, your wildness, your power, as well as emotional healing, tenderness, and releasing tension from the area around your sexual organs. So this is like the groin area, the anus, the perineum, even the urethra. There's like a de-armoring technique you can do on the penis, which is like you release the tension all along the shaft, that helps to release the tension from like the whole pipeline, you could say, as well as different stretching techniques. There's lingam massage, yoni massage. So yes, there's a lot you can do as a man with conscious catharsis, breathwork, sounding, liberating movement. Dance is fantastic for this. Recognizing consciousness and awareness and tenderness as a foundation for being, as well as specific genital and anal release work. And again, you could Google this, or you can find, like, there are so many amazing therapists around the world who actually do this, who offer this. And you can also do this with your partners. If you're in a relationship, then you can actually give this to each other, which is basically finding wherever there is tension and numbness and releasing that through massage, through touch, through pressing in, through breathing through there and holding space for anything that shows up without the need to understand or analyze anything. As long as you can keep on breathing and holding space for it, then you're able to release pretty much anything. So again, that could be with a partner or with a professional therapist. I do give these sessions, so if you happen to be in the world, like somewhere in the world where I am, then you could contact me and we could have a session. But there's lots of people all over the world, and I do know some people in the Netherlands, in Sweden, in the States, in Australia, that give these sessions. So if you have specific questions about how to find, I want to put together like an international directory of therapists that give these kind of sessions. But for now, you can always reach out to me if you want specific guidance. And in terms of the emotional release work, we can do stuff via Skype as well. So if you feel like you want my personal guidance because you feel a certain resonance or trust in my experience, then we can have one-on-one sessions either live if you happen to be in Bali or anywhere that I hang out, or we can do it via Skype or Zoom as well. So there's so much support that you can have. Let's see if there's anything else I want to share. Acupressure, healing sessions, yes, spiritual healing, any kind of bodywork, massage, loving kindness and loving presence is super beautiful. In our further training, I want to go deeper into exactly how to recognize awareness and how to really get back into that essence that is completely untouched by everything that's happened in your life. There's the practice of neti-neti, which, if you don't know what that means, then I'm not going to go into that right now, but it's basically an experience of profound spaciousness and invincibility and unaffectedness. Dropping identification with the story, releasing addiction to the story, cultivating compassionate, loving presence, dismantling unworthiness and shame, and aligning perspective with the perspective of unconditional love and presence and awareness, and the courage to feel everything. I think that's like a pretty comprehensive overview of the kind of tools that are available. And again, like the pillow pounding and the wood chopping and the breath work and the shaking and the catharsis, I'm going to guide that more deeply. As you can sense, it's like there's a lot. And so basically what's going to happen from here is that starting from next week, we're going to go into like a multi-part training series in all of this that I have just mentioned, where I'll guide you through specific practices that you can use to release trauma and stuckness from your system so that you can open up for more intimacy and life and orgasm. And I don't know, like normally I would say it's going to be a 3-part training series or a 5-part or 9-part or whatever. I don't know. I want to be there for you for as long as it's needed. I don't want to have the time pressure to say that it's going to be X amount of sessions and then we need to be done and we need to squish everything into these few sessions. No, I want to be there to hold the space for whatever shows up. So it's going to be a kind of group coaching session, you could say. I'm going to be guiding the practices, and you can also ask specific questions, and you can also come on video so we can have like a kind of one-on-one session within the group field. And my experience with this is that it's especially powerful because usually when you are experiencing something that is like a struggle or something is stuck in your system, and you share that and the other people can hear it, as well as be taken through the process to release and open and heal that, then it's like it works on a collective level, that it's like leverage, you know? It's like what opens for one person opens for the collective as well. So that's another reason why I want to do this in a group setting, because we can discover so much together when we go in. I also feel a personal desire to just work a bit more in depth with this, because I feel it's such a profound process, and it does need time. It does need time to actually release and open. So that's why I'm not saying it's going to be 3 sessions or 5 sessions or 1 session, but it's more just like it'll be whatever it needs to be for as long as it's needed. Probably like 1 session per week or 1 session every other week that we come together. It depends a little bit on my travel schedule and what retreats and workshops that I'm leading. But somewhere around like weekly or bi-weekly, we're going to have this. And so I see that there's like a lot of women here on the call who are in the Sensual Yogini Academy already. And if you want to join for these deeper training and this deeper guidance, as well as have the opportunity to ask me questions without having to go through the avenue of, or maybe it doesn't resonate to go through the one-on-one coaching, but you feel like you want to be a part of this group field and this more collective support, then if you go to sensualyogini.com/VIP, then you get like, I think it's a $40 discount on the first month. At the moment, it's set up as a monthly membership thing where it's basically $49 per month. You get Tantric and Taoist practices released every month. There are different themes: Jade Egg practices, Yoni Yoga, recognizing awareness, orgasmic breath work, chakra breathing, sexual vitality qigong, how to activate, circulate and sublimate sexual energy, the lotus sublimation practice. There's a lot in there, and more is being created sort of as we speak. I'm right now in a creative flow where I am creating a lot of practices for the Sensual Yogini Academy. And there's also the entire library of previous live streams on empowered living, on manifestation magic, on relationship skills, about attracting your dream life, attracting your dream partner, with myself and with guest teachers. So you get access to all of that. And the 2 options are basically, so if you go to sensualyogini.com/VIP, then the first month is just $9, which is, you know, very symbolic, little tiny investment for your commitment. And then you can choose however long you want to stay on. And I'm actually now in the process of redesigning it to create it more like a 13-moon program where everybody continues from start to finish, with the option of doing the full thing online, or to have it online as well as 3 retreats that are going to be in California, Bali, and Spain over the course of 1 year, where we go deeper with the same group of women for the full journey. But at the moment, it's open so that you can join. And for anyone who is a member already, or you join now, then once the 13-moon program is out, you're going to get that for like a huge discount, like half price or something like that. I haven't figured out the specifics, but basically right now, if you want, the invitation is that if you want to be a part of this specific training, you get access to the full academy as well as the live stream library. But if you want to be a part of the group coaching training, you could say, on releasing trauma from your system, opening up for deeper orgasmic experiences, and really getting a super deep and mature toolkit for moving through any kind of stuckness and traumatic experiences, recognizing awareness, and cultivating unconditional self-love, then I would recommend that you just go there now. And then when this 13-moon program is out, then there will be a possibility to join that as well. But there is no need or reason to wait, because if this is something that is still holding you back in some way, where there's the feeling like something is stuck in your system, or a feeling like you are having a pattern of rejection within yourself, or a feeling like you shouldn't be feeling whatever you are feeling, then this will be perfect for you. And on the page at sensualyogini.com/VIP, then you can either choose to do it by month, or you can join for a full year up front, and then it's basically a 25% discount. So that is like, if you feel like you want to dive in and have that commitment to go for a bit of a deeper journey, then I would recommend the year option. And also for both of these, I think there's like a 60-day money back guarantee, something like that, so that you can try it out and you can choose if you want to continue or if you want to drop out. But yeah, that's what's going to be coming up. And for men, so I don't know if I want to open it up for you guys to join, because there's also something really beautiful that happens when we come together only as women and only as men, because there's like a different kind of openness and safety that we can experience when we're like only with the sisters or only with the brothers. Like men's circles are also beautiful. So it might be for men that the better option would be the men's sexual mastery program, which is the premium one-on-one coaching, which is going to be out depending on when you watch this. If you watch it live or the replay, it'll either be out already or it's going to be out soon, presently speaking. And I might not even post this on my website, but it might just be an email that I sent out to you guys who are part of my tribe already, because I want to go really in depth with like maximum 10 men. And so then I'll send out the information about that as well. I think that's pretty much it. I want to just see if there are any more questions. Let me just type in the link so that you can go there and you can find out about the academy, some more information there as well. Then you can check this, but go there, like maybe not right now, you could open it in a new tab, but just like wait so that we can still stay on this together. I still see that there's still a lot of people here on this call. So Willem asks, do you have live sessions in the monthly program? Yes. Lots of live sessions, more and more so, especially. So this is where this is going to take place. Again, men, if you want to be a part of this, then I might find a way that you could be a part of it. But otherwise, I think one-on-one coaching is the best option to do, because then you can really get specific practices that are super tailored to you. And within the one-on-one coaching, then you will also get guided, personalized meditations and practices. Because everyone, I find, especially with men, like women seem to really thrive in the collective field, that when we're having this group program experience, then something about the sisterhood and togetherness that is so profound and so powerful. I find working with men that often it's actually, unless it's like a live men's circle where we can really like get together and dive in deep, I find that actually one-on-one attention is the most transformative, because then it's like, okay, I am on this path. This is where I want to get to, and this is the guidance that I need. Because then you can really, like, you get 1,000% attention, and everything is completely tailored to you. So you don't need to go through like 10 years of random spiritual transformation, but you get like the full Neo download into exactly what you need to come into emotional healing, sexual openness, sexual mastery, release of anything that is holding you back, whether it's in intimacy or in business or in life or in relationships. So that is actually what I would recommend the most. And again, this is not out yet, but you'll receive an email soon about the Men's Sexual Mastery Program, which is super exciting. I just got the download like a few days ago when I was in the shower. I was like, oh, I'm going to be offering this. I worked with men a lot before, in coaching, especially like in tantric circles, as well as in the PUA community, like in the pickup arts community, when they're going deeper into the tantric work and into deeper connection and relationship skills. But I'm really excited to start working with men more in depth like this again. Yvette says, just wanted to thank you, Ronja. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Yvette. Thank you. Yes, laser sharp focus. Exactly. No time wasted. So Katrine is asking, when there's no connection between me and screaming and making sound, I'm ashamed to do it by myself at home. Yeah, so if you're ashamed to do it by yourself at home, I feel like doing some other practices as well. Like I'll guide you into a practice called the rainbow practice, which is a dance meditation where you come into deeper connection with your body. Also things like the yoni yoga and the jade egg practice is going to help to really bridge that link. When we are feeling disconnected from our body, then it's pretty much always because we've had a traumatic experience in the past. Our body goes into shock, and one of the protection mechanisms, because it feels too scary to feel everything, it's like our body creates, our nervous system creates like this comfortable, safe buffer in between us and the experience. It's essentially a mechanism that ensures that we can stay kind of sane and functional, because there's a feeling like if I felt this to the full magnitude, then it would be too much to handle. So that's why this protection mechanism kicks in. And it's useful somewhat, but it's not the full-blown orgasmic ecstatic beings that we are actually inherently naturally. And so re-bridging that gap with your body and your system and training your nervous system to noticing that it's actually safe to feel whatever that is now, then it can release from your system. And as a part of that, it can be beautiful to allow your body to cathart and to release and to scream and to shake. And so what I would recommend, if you feel like you're disconnected, is to actually do it either with a one-on-one coach or to go to like a live workshop. So for example, the Osho meditations are really profound and really beautiful for this. The Aum meditation specifically, AUM meditation, it's like a complete flash through of your emotional system where you cry, you laugh, you're sensual, you're crazy, you're peaceful, joyful, everything. It's like a complete emotional flash through. The Osho dynamic meditation is fantastic. The Osho Kundalini meditation is fantastic, which is what we go into deeper in the shaking practice as well. Because having that group feel of like being in a live workshop where people are like, everyone is screaming, everyone is going crazy, everyone is doing that. In the Ecstatic Awakening Retreat, we have a specific process, which is the most beautiful, the most transformative, and the most healing process that I have ever come across in my life and that I've ever experienced, which is a practice of embracing, welcoming, and opening as whatever is showing up, where we go through the complete emotional spectrum and welcoming that into the embrace of unconditional love, as well as psychosomatically training our nervous system to catch any moment in the future where we go into closure, and then being able to retrain and uncontract that pattern in a way that becomes deeply transformative for our relationships and for any life experience that we have. So that's what I would recommend if you feel like you're disconnected when you're screaming, because you can scream, but you're not actually feeling it. So it's really coming from the bridge of being connected to the felt sense of your experience in your body, and then allowing sound and breath to come from there. Transformational breath sessions are also fantastic for this, with the toning. And if you're feeling shame, and again, we're going to go deeper into this in the training series, but if you're feeling ashamed, if you tune into the feeling of being ashamed, so if you want to distinguish between shame and guilt, guilt is the feeling like I did something wrong. Shame is the feeling of like I am wrong, like there's something wrong with me in some way. That's the feeling of shame. The contraction that you're feeling is an indication that your perspective about yourself is out of alignment with how existence itself sees you. In other words, life itself is always holding you within an embrace of unconditional love, acceptance, and appreciation, whether you can feel it or not. And when you are in alignment with the perspective of life itself, you feel wonderful because you are in that space of unconditional love and unconditional holding of yourself and of acceptance of anything that's showing up. And when you're having a judgment or feeling shame or guilt, or like, I shouldn't be feeling like this, the contraction you're experiencing is an indication through your emotional guidance system that you're essentially buying into an illusion. Your perspective is out of alignment with truth, and you're believing essentially in a lie about existence and about yourself. We'll be dismantling this again a bit more deeply about dissolving limiting beliefs. I've also touched upon this before in the webinar called Manifestation Magic. It's called something like Effortlessly Create the Life of Your Dreams by Following Your Joy. There I also go into a bit more deeply to dissolve limiting beliefs, as well as the idea of lack in our experience, which is profoundly opening both emotionally as well as just for anything we want to do in life, whether it's in business or relationships or taking a leap of faith of any kind. So, yeah, it's not the Soho meditations, but it's the Osho meditations. Yeah, so I can warmly recommend them. Suzanne says, question, do you have any intake on a deeply rooted sexual shame that arises in lovemaking, despite being with an intimate tantric partner where there is safety, respect, honoring, openness, love? Do you have any experience/knowledge to share on that? Yes, absolutely. Thank you for bringing this up, because this is one of the most common kind of things that arise and are very often misunderstood, is that we can have the idea that if there is love and safety and intimacy, then we'll just feel that. But very often that is somewhat true. If we can rest in that space of acceptance, then that will be our experience. But simultaneously, like I shared earlier on, is that when we've had traumatic experiences and we don't have the safety or the wisdom to assimilate or to release it in that moment, it'll get stored in our system to be released at a later stage when there is sufficient wisdom and love to hold a space for it. And so in that process, especially when we are either in a more loving space within ourselves where we can hold everything that comes up, or we are with a partner who is fully there with us, what happens is that finally those hidden parts of us, those parts that we didn't feel, that we didn't accept, that we didn't embrace back in the day whenever that initial imprint or traumatic experience happened, those parts of us finally feel safe enough to come up to the surface. And so it's actually a good sign. It's like if we can have the frame of mind of that tenderness and that unconditional acceptance, so that when we are in lovemaking with a partner and our partner is very loving, if we can also be equally loving or also be loving within ourselves and be like, hey, sweetheart, okay, you're feeling this. It's okay. It's welcome. Then it can actually move through the system. And it's only when we analyze it too much, or when we grasp onto it and analyze it too much, sometimes it can be good, like afterwards, to be like, oh, what was that mechanism? Like, what actually happened? But in the moment of it happening, it's better to just allow the felt sense and the experience, and allow your body to cry, to release, to sound, to move in whatever way it does. The breath is really, really key here. You keep on breathing and keep on allowing your body to do whatever. Like, the body is so intelligent. I'll be sharing in the catharsis release section of this a bit more deeply some examples of when I have gone through deep physical release, which is like, to anyone who doesn't know what's going on, would look a bit like going totally crazy with the body, but it's basically releasing, like completing the stress cycle. But then the body can actually complete that, and it can be released from our system, at least that layer, and then maybe there's another layer coming. So when you're with a partner, then it's very, 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 very natural and very common and very normal that these things actually show up, and it's a good sign. Let me see if there's anything else that I want to go back here in terms of questions. No, there's just a lot of beautiful shares. Claire Emma says, beautiful, Ronja, lovely to know more about your journey. Thank you so much. Claire Emma, I'm pretty sure that there's only one Claire Emma. When I see your name, then I think about when we were scuba diving together in Maui with after the Bentinho retreat. That was such a beautiful experience. It was my first scuba diving experience in a couple of years. So thank you so much for your guidance to dare to go into the depths of those waters. Again, Kiria says, I didn't quite understand if what you're offering here is already part of the Sensual Hygiene Academy that I am in. Can you clear this again, please? Yes, absolutely. So for you who are a member already, this is going to be a live training that starts next week. And that will then continue like once a week or once every 2 weeks, depending on my travel schedule, until it feels like it's done. You know, basically, I'm here for you. Like there's no time limit on this. I'm here for you, and we're going to go through this. And I'm also going to be recording videos that will be a part of one of the months in the 13 Moon program, the 13 Moon version of the Sensual Hygiene Academy that will be coming in the next few months. But in short, the answer is yes. It's already a part of it. I mean, it's not up there yet at the date of speaking this right now. But it's a part. So there's nothing, if you're a member, there's nothing more you need to do. It'll all be given to you there. And for everybody else who wants to join, for women, go to sensualyogini.com/VIP, and you can choose the monthly or the yearly option. And for men, the men's sexual mastery coaching program will be out soon. And again, I want to work with 10 men maximum and have it go over probably the course over 6 months, possibly longer, like 9 or 12 months. But most likely it's going to be a 6 month, like 2 sessions per month type thing, unless you have a specific wish to have it more spread out or more intensively. But I feel like the amount of time dedication and commitment and depth that I want to go in is that I can only maximum take on 10 men for this. Because that with 2 sessions per month would already be like 20 sessions per month. And with the amount of personalized attention and depth that I want to go in, then that would be the maximum that I feel I can hold in conjunction with the retreats and the Sensual Hygiene Academy that I'm already leading. So Yvonne says, what are the 5 levels of ... that you mentioned before? The 5 levels or the 5 layers of sexual wholeness, which wholeness simply means when we are fully in our naturalness, when we have released any shame or tension, or at least are in the process of releasing fear or shame or tension or guilt around our sexuality, which pretty much always comes with the side effects of being naturally deeply, deeply, deeply orgasmic. The 5 layers of that is returning to, like restoring sexual innocence, sexual play or sexual playfulness, the quality of sexual honoring our boundaries, really creating that safety within ourselves, sexual pleasure, like fully allowing and inhabiting and embodying sexual pleasure, as well as sexual sacredness. So innocence, play, honoring, pleasure, and sacredness are those 5 levels that I mentioned before. And there are specific processes for going into that. So I'm going to be creating some guided meditations and practices for fully restoring this, which when you do that is might be like the most beautiful gift you can ever give to yourself. It ripples through into literally everything in your life. You know, I have the feeling often like I have lived so many lifetimes in one lifetime. If I look back to how fearful and shut down and suicidal and in harsh judgment, like ask any of my ex-partners, they'll tell you. Like I used to be so incredibly stuck in my body, as well as in judgment and resistance and judgmental thoughts and self-hatred for so many years. And then opening up and dropping into a place where it's like I literally cannot hold on to contracted emotion anymore. Everything arises within this openness. There's an unconditional field of love for myself, as well as for the life experience and everything that is showing up. And so it feels like, you know, that fearful contracted girl and woman, like I literally cannot find her other than as like a vague memory and an occasional echo arising that is wanting to then like, okay, there's another layer that is wanting to be loved and embraced and released here. It is as strong as being different people. And I can imagine, I'm already getting like a future self glimpse. A future self glimpse of, you know, a few months from now or a few years from now, looking back at this webinar and being like, yeah, that happened again. Like the amount of openness and clarity and awakeness that I'm experiencing now being like me in the future, that from this perspective now, 2017, I couldn't even fathom. Because it seems to me like there's no upper limit to this. Awakenings and openings keep on happening. Sometimes gradually, sometimes there are these quantum shifts, quantum leaps, like when I was 17 and I had that dream of, from which I woke up and I was bathing in love and in oneness from being so fearful and so stuck in contraction before. Sometimes those quantum leaps happen. But yeah, this journey is just more exciting and more profound than I can possibly describe or even comprehend from my humanness. So I feel just profoundly grateful that I'm able to share this, that both in live sessions, because I love the live workshops. Yesterday, we released the tickets for Ecstatic Awakening Retreat Spain, by the way. You might have seen that already. If not, go to ecstaticawakeningretreat.com. Let me just put that in. So this is a complete side note, but I'm just so excited about this. And if you watch this years from now, there's probably another one coming up somewhere in the world. We have retreats planned in Spain, in California, in Hawaii, in Bali, Costa Rica, loads of different places. So you can check that out as well. People started signing up within an hour. It's super exciting. So anyway, total side note, but yeah, I feel profoundly grateful to be on this path. And actually, on the note of Ecstatic Awakening Retreat, like we had one a few weeks ago here in Bali, and then the same evening, as we ended the retreat, I invited all the participants to come over to my place here to have dinner together. And it's funny because I've just been leading like a 7-day retreat with like at most holding space for a few hundred people in one of the evenings where we had desert dwellers and coming under playing and like having only a couple of hours of sleep every night. And then being like, hey, okay, the retreat is over, so let's hang out. That I genuinely love these participants so much. I used to have this feeling after leading a workshop or a retreat that like, oh, no, I just want to like cut away from all of it. It's like, oh, like that was beautiful. And in a way, I'm glad that it's over. But with the Ecstatic Awakening Retreat, it's more just like, oh, it's my new family and we can hang out. So I've been hanging out with the Ecstatic Awakening tribe, those who are still here on Bali. And a lot of them are going to be coming back to the one in Spain in August. And to go back to this sharing about this bed, at some point that night when we were having dinner together, we were all, not all of us, but like there was a lot of people in the living room over there on the balcony. But in the bed, we were cuddling with a bunch of people. And I was like, how many are we? And then we counted. And at most, we were 17 people in this bed. It's actually bigger than it looks. It looks kind of small on this camera, but it's actually a really huge one. So we were 17 people cuddling here a couple of weeks ago. Yosei says, I love you too. Yes, Yosei was in the Ecstatic Awakening Retreats. So that's super, super exciting. Justin says, yeah, 17 exactly. Justin says, do you also offer mixed workshops and groups with men/women? As I feel the energy in mixed group is very heart opening. Yes. So that would be the Ecstatic Awakening Retreat primarily. We also have, if you want to come over to Bali quickly, in the beginning of March, let me just see if I can pop the link in here as well. Okay, so I wasn't planning on doing this kind of little promo thing, but it's kind of happening now, so you can just check it out. 12th to 17th of March, we have the Prana Rainforest Immersion, which you can find here on this link, prana-rainforest-immersion.com, Prana Rainforest Immersion, which is similar to Ecstatic Awakening, but also with permaculture, which is absolutely beautiful. I'm doing that collaboration with some really amazing teachers here from, like, not from Bali, but who live in Bali. And we are also having Rewild Guatemala in April. So this is another amazing one. Let me just, okay, I'll just throw the link in there. I might email you guys about this afterwards as well, but there you can find Rewild, which is in the beginning of April in Guatemala. It's going to be me and Jeff and Lisa leading that together, which is very beautiful as well. But yeah, so for mixed workshops and groups, that would be the Ecstatic Awakening Retreat, the Prana Rainforest Immersion, as well as Rewild. I also have a Tantric Massage Masterclass for couples coming up. So if anybody was watching and you happen to be in Australia, let me just see if I can find this as well. If you happen to be in Australia in the coming weeks, then it looks like I'll be giving 2 weekends there. So my apologies if this is like link overload. I guess I'll just trust your guidance on like which one you feel drawn to. There's the Tantric Massage Masterclass, as well as the Sensual Yogini Live Weekend, which both of these are coming up in Australia, but I'll offer them in Europe and in California at some point this year as well. So depending on when you watch this, there will be maybe new dates up as well. But yeah, so lots of different offerings. And all of these, if you go to my website and you click on events, you can find all of them. Maybe that's the easiest way, actually. Then you don't have to keep track of all the different ones, but there's just one page. Which is this one, where you can find all of it. Okay, including the Sensual Yogini Academy, although that doesn't take you to the VIP page, I think. But guys, we are going here now over 2 hours, pretty much. So that's pretty long. So yes, there's an abundance of offerings. And whether you choose to go deeper with me or with any other teacher that resonates, then, you know, life will definitely guide you into exactly where you need to be. So just to recap, if you want to be part of the deeper training in trauma release and going from numbness into oneness and from stuckness into orgasmic openness, then check out sensualyogini.com/VIP. If you remember already, there's nothing you need to do. And for the men, the Sexual Mastery Program is coming out soon, so just stay tuned for that when that is out. That's also super exciting. I'm curious who these 10 men will be that will go deeper into this. I feel really, really strongly guided to create this as well. So send us blessings and light. Let's see, Alexi, I don't know how you pronounce your name. And Kai says, I would love to join the Sensual Yogini Academy, but I'm currently doing Leila's SLRC as well. I just don't have enough hours in the day. Exactly. Yeah, I resonate. I'm also in Leila Martin's Sex, Love, and Relationship Coaching Training, which is like 2 hours a day for a year, pretty much. It's pretty full on. So I totally get that, you know, it could be good to just not overload. So yeah, you can always join later, or if you feel like you want to dovetail. The Sensual Yogini is definitely faster. Like it's most practices to fully do it would come to like maybe 15 minutes per day. So it's much more bite-sized and still very profound, but it's really like distilling the essence of everything that I've discovered into very potent practices. So if you feel like you want to juggle both, then you can, or just have an extra inspiration. And otherwise, just whenever you feel that the timing is right, then it'll be there. So Alexi or Alex, I'm not sure how you say it, is asking, will the retreat entail workshops? How do you keep the boundaries clear between touching women and men? Yes, it will entail workshops. The Ecstatic Awakening, as well as the other ones, they're always like, what I'm moving the most right now is the theme of ecstasy, embodiment, connection, and awakening. And so the workshops are around Tantric and Taoist practices, breathwork, orgasmic breathwork, emotional healing and catharsis, acro yoga, massage, tantric massage, ecstatic dance. It's just creating an ecstatic field of awakening and awareness where everything can arise and be felt. And there's a beautiful medicine that comes also just in the practice of dance itself. Hold on, let me just dim this light. It's a little bit bright. There we go. This is getting a bit darker here. So yes, there will be workshops. You can see the full program on the website. And how do you keep the boundaries clear between touching women and men? So in general, in the workshops, we don't touch breasts or genitals unless it's explicitly, specifically agreed upon very clearly, or you're with a partner. And also, whenever we do any kind of practice together, whether it's like a tantric breathwork, partner energy circulation practice, or breath circulation practice, or it's tantric massage, or any kind of deeper body work, then as a receiver, and there are some other beautiful practices that we do between the men and the women that I can't really explain now because it's kind of, it would take a long time, it's quite deep. Then as a receiver, you can always speak your boundaries as well as your wishes. So maybe it's like, oh, I want to receive deeply nourishing touch, or I want to like for you to go deep into my muscles, or just hold your hand still, or for me to just rest in your arms. And I don't want you to touch my breasts or my bum or my pussy. Like, you can speak those boundaries. And as a giver, then you only give what you feel comfortable giving. And having said that, you know, when we go into these experiences and these practices in the retreats and in the workshops, we start from a space of doing a lot of authentic relating practices, where we essentially come into a space of connection with each other, where we can be deeply compassionate as well as radically honest. Like, there's no charity in this, you know, in terms of going along with something that doesn't feel good. It's literally like a boot camp in radical honesty and authentic relating and commitment to connection. If you're familiar with circling, then it's related to the practices of circling. But yeah, authentic relating is the foundation for everything that we do, as well as very clear boundaries, as well as a safe space to explore beyond boundaries, not in terms of overstepping them into something that doesn't feel good, but in terms of stretching your comfort zone so that your stretching zone becomes your new comfort zone and your previous panic zone becomes your new stretching zone. So we are going deeper into that in the retreat as well. Bite-sized, love it, exactly, yeah. The SLRC is amazing, takes a lot of time. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. So Kai, yeah, you could always check it out. You could even just like, you know, check it out for a bit, and there's either you can pause it or you can get your money back and join at a later point. You could check it out just to see if it resonates, you know, nothing to lose really, or you can just leave it for now and join when you are done with the SLRC, for example. That feels good, yes. So I want to check lastly now if there's anybody who wants to come on to video and share anything spontaneous here before we go. I'm actually going to head very soon to the ecstatic contact dance that is happening tonight in Ubud here in Bali. And so I want to head out pretty soon, but I just want to see if there's anybody who quickly wants to come on and just like say hello on video. If so, then you can raise your hand and check if you want to come up and speak. And of course, if you're watching the replay, then you can't come up and speak right now, but yeah. And if not, then I think the last thing that I want to do is to just show you out here what it looks like. I have some laundry drying on the balcony, but a person that is like, I keep my house really, really tidy. And I want to show you just the view from the balcony. It's starting to get a little bit dark. It's like 6:15 in the evening right now, but it's just so beautiful to be here. So I want to show you what it looks like where I live, just to let you into my house. You can see my bed here, the famous bed with 17 people. Brigitte says, thank you, honored and inspired to share this moment. And for all of you, thank you so much for coming on. There's a couple of hundred people who have registered for this. It was about It's like about 200 people registered, about 50 people, something like that, who are here live. 65 people who are here live. So I think a lot of people will be watching the replay as well. And so for all of you, whether you're attending live or watching the replay, thank you so much. Like I said, this is the first time that I've shared more in depth about my journey and my experience. I know now we have spoken a lot about different aspects, different retreats, different questions coming up and stuff. And I also want to reconnect just to the beginning of our call about healing sexual trauma. And my experience is that anything can be released. I've seen this in myself, as well as the hundreds of women and men that I've worked with, personally and in groups. It's literally like transforming lives in such a profound and beautiful way. Mom, Dad, if you're watching this, I hope I've been able to honor the experience in a way that's also respectful for you. And I'm so happy that I stayed. And I love you forever and always. And yeah, I'm so happy that I'm still alive and that I'm still here and that I'm able to keep on sharing this. Guy says, you surely have something in common with Ramya, who I really love. Ramya was my first women's group teacher. So when I was 17, when I started with Tantra and breathwork and everything, in that same festival, Ramya was leading a women's circle. And that was my first goddess gathering. That was my first goddess circle. And so I've been doing a lot of work with her over the last 13 years, did her year training like 6 years ago. And now actually in the Ecstatic Awakening retreat that we had here in Bali in January, she was for the first time my assistant, which was absolutely beautiful for both of us. Like, oh, I've been assisting her so much and co-teaching and co-facilitating in different countries over the last many years. And now for the first time, she came in to assist, as well as her beloved Eli came in to offer sound transmission. So it was absolutely beautiful. Irene or Irene, I'm not sure how you say it. She says, thank you so much. Always inspiring seeing and hearing you. You're so supernatural. Thank you so much. Thank you. Justin, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Just deep and profound gratitude for all of you. So let me show you around here. So this is my garden. It's a little altar, a little ceremony space here. I don't know if the Wi-Fi is reaching all the way over here. I'll just take a screenshot so you can see it later. Yeah, big, cozy, hanging. I think I need to go slowly so that you can see. So there's like a jungle here on the other side with the river, and in front of here is like a yoga platform. Yeah. Luscious green, exactly. So, whoops. The screen just tipped backwards. Very high ceiling here. Okay, my loves. So, Sunshine Yoginis, I'll see you in the further training. I feel profoundly honored for your trust and for your willingness to keep on feeling and opening in this way. Men, I'll see you live or in the Sexual Mastery Program. For somewhere in the world or on a mountaintop. Thank you so much. I love you all. Wish you a beautiful day. I'm gonna go dance.